Okay, wonderful. Good morning here, Baruch Hashem. I got up early to Makayim, the Eitzah Rabbi Nachman, to do Tikkun Chatzot, and to do Ibodedut before I start my day, before everybody starts their day over here. It's early, thank God. So I feel inspired now to teach the Maran, which is great. I hope today's lesson is going to help everybody here. This lesson should be a refuah shlema for my grandmother, Sarah Esther Bat Mini. She's had some complications recently with her eating and her digestion, and she's in the hospital. So if everybody can pray for her, I would really appreciate it. And I hope this class brings people understanding and purpose, energy and strength and joy and clarity about why we struggle the way that we struggle. So just as a quick recap of what we said so far, Rabbi Nachman is teaching that the only reason why a person struggles in this world is because he lacks life force. And we can see this clearly, that there are people that they have everything and they're not happy because they're not motivated. They don't feel excited about life. They don't feel invigorated. And we see that there are people who appears on paper like they have less, but they're very motivated and they're very excited and they're very happy. And it all has to do with this life force. So in Hebrew, life force is called ruach. And Rabbi Nachman said that the one thing for sure that you're going to get by him is ruach, that he's going to infuse in you this motivation to achieve both spiritually and physically to the greatest degree that you possibly can. Like he said, that anybody who attaches themselves to me in truth, he's going to become a tzaddik. And obviously a tzaddik is a very high level thing. And he's not just speaking vain words, but these are true words and words of truth. So the way to that is ruach. We need ruach, which is connected to breath. And therefore Rabbi Nachman teaches that when a person extends their breath and they kvetch, or they, what's the word in Yiddish? To be able to krech, that's it, which is to sigh, but not a sigh of despair, a sigh of, I want more in my life. I want more good in my life. I want more peace in my life. I want more faith. I want to experience God more. So all of these things are going to come and fill you up when you're connected to the truth, when you're connected to the tzaddik, when you're achieved connection and closeness to a real spiritual master. And now Rabbi Nachman's going to say that there is a klipa here. There is a obstacle here to achieving this connection to the tzaddik, in which you can draw down life force, which we said before was because the tzaddik is the root soul of all the Jewish people, just like Moshe Rabbeinu was the father of all the Jewish people, gave birth to all the Jewish people, like the Zohar says. So as a result of that, we draw our life force from him, because everything draws its life force from its roots. Just like plants draw their life force from the ground, so too we draw our life force from the tzaddik. It's the same exact parallel. So this is the thing that we have to keep in mind. However, there's many obstacles to this. Just like when you plant a garden, like my mother did over the period of COVID, to try and mechazik herself and give her something to do that's meaningful. She saw that she had to put a fence up because there was wild animals that came in. She saw that she had to put certain things there so that they were so that the external or exterior or non-essential things that are also growing from the ground don't come and destroy the fruit. So too, it's like our connection in spirituality. The more that we want to try and come close to good, the more that there are barriers to doing so. So what is the main barrier to closeness to the tzaddik, to draw this new life force, to draw this new energy, to draw this simcha, this joy? Rabbi Nachman says that the biggest barrier to closeness to the tzaddik is not something physical. It's not something that you can touch or that's tangible. It's actually the people around you who say you don't need to do so. Either they say that you don't need a tzaddik like that, or they're going to tell you it's a avodah zarah, or they're going to tell you that a person can do it on his own, or they're going to tell you that this is fanatical, or this is not Judaism, or they're going to tell you X, Y, and Z, a litany of reasons why you don't need to have closeness to the tzaddik. But like it says in Tehillim, that all the people who speak against this spiritual master who lives and breathes for the Jewish people, who is the root of our souls and the source of the chesed that comes down into the world, is trickled through him and then goes out to the world, like it's taught about in the Zohar and the teachings of the Arizal. So anyone who speaks against him is not speaking from a place of truth. They're not speaking from a place of wisdom. They're not speaking from a place of humility. They're speaking from a place of arrogance and from insecurity and from vilification. So Rabbi Nachman now brings a big question. If that's the case, that these people who speak against connecting to those types of spiritual masters, they are speaking against the tzaddik, who's the root of life force. So where are they getting their life force from? Where are they getting it from? If we're saying that all life force comes from the tzaddik, they're not connected to him. And not only they're not connected to him, they are actually preventing other people from being connected to him, which Rabbi Nachman says is the worst possible thing that they could be doing. So where are they getting their life force from? Well, the Rabbi Nachman says, how do they complete and make whole that which is lacking for them? However, you should know, Sheish Rav the Klipa, V'hu Bechinat Esav, that like Shlomo Melech teaches in Kohelet, Hashem made one opposite the other, that for everything that's positive and good and sustaining and blessed in this world, there is the opposite that looks just like it. So too here, for every concept of Yaakov Avinu, Jacob, the Tzaddik Hador, that gives birth to the 12 perfect sons, that anybody who's connected to him is going to become a tzaddik in and of themselves, just like Yaakov's sons all became tzaddikim, because he himself was the tzaddik. So as a result of that, they all became tzaddikim. But just like there's a Yaakov, he also has a twin brother, and he's very captivating, and he's very exciting to listen to, and he seems to have a pulse on what's happening. He appears to be very passionate about what he teaches. However, in the end of the day, he is not the Rav of Chesed, like we're going to learn, the Rav of kindness, but he's the Rav of Klipa. And this is the concept of Esav. How do we know that Esav pictures himself or paints himself to be a rabbi? Because in the Torah, we don't see that Esav has any interest in spirituality necessarily. All we see is that he has turned away from what his parents taught him, that he himself is very attached to and connected to physicality at the expense of spirituality, that according to the Midrashim, he doesn't believe in Olam Haba, he doesn't believe in the world to come, he doesn't believe that Hashem gives good to his children, that it's not worth the sacrifice that it takes to have spiritual connection to Hashem. So where do we see that he holds himself to be a rabbi? So there's a mafurish, explicit pasuk in the Torah where Esav meets Yaakov after many years of them being separated. And Esav at this point had built a whole entire institution of family, wives, children, army members, military, right? He came with 400 soldiers to meet Yaakov. And Yaakov came with his family, with Leah, with Rachel, with their children. Everybody beside Benjamin who wasn't born yet. And when they came and they saw each other, what did Esav tell Yaakov? Yeshli Rav, there is to me a lot. However, Rabbi Nachman reads this literally. Not that there is to me a lot. Yesh, there is, li, to me, Rav, a lot. But Yeshli Rav, there is to me a Rav. There is to me a rabbi, meaning that I am a rabbi. I am the Rav. I am the tzaddik. I am the person that you need to connect to. V'hu b'chinat alufei Esav. This is the concept of the alufei Esav, which are the military commanders of Esav. But we know that the concept of aluf also means a teacher. Uchmo shetirgam Onkelos, like Onkelos says, Rav Ravei Esav. These are the Rebbeim of Esav, the rabbis of Esav. Bechinat harav the klipa. That we know that in Kabbalah, there's a concept of of fruit, and there's a concept of klipa, shell or peel. Just like we know that in every fruit that we eat, we have to first discard the shell. Or if you're my wife and you love watermelon seeds, so you can't eat those watermelon seeds unless you first discard the shell. You have to crack it open with your teeth. You have to get rid of it. And then you eat the seed in the inside. The seed in the inside is very good for you. It has omega-3. It has protein. It's low calorie. It's the tzaddik yisod olam. That's the tzaddik. Okay? But to be able to get to him, you first have to discard the shell. There is always a shell around. And the reason for the shell itself is actually to protect that which is really good only for those people who have earned and have yearned and have worked towards achieving it. That's the positive aspect of it. However, the negative aspect of it is that many people don't know that there's a shell. They don't know that there's a fruit inside it, so they eat the shell. Now, in the physical world, you know to discard the shell because you can taste when you chew it that it's not ready to be eaten and it's not digestible. However, in spirituality, you don't know that. And in fact, the seed and the shell look just like each other. That there's a rav, which is the concept of the seed, and then there's the rav, the klipa. There is the shell on the outside. And if you eat that, it's not good for you. It causes digestion issues. It causes nutritional deficiencies. And the list goes on and on. So in this sense, Yaakov represents the seed, and Esav, his twin brother, represents the klipa, the outside, the external part. We can actually see this mashal played out in real life, because what did Yaakov say when he went to go receive the bracha from his father? So he told his mother, I can't do it because my father is going to feel me, and I'm chalak, I'm glat, I'm smooth, and my brother is hairy. What's the reason? Because Yaakov always represents the most internal part of reality. He represents the soul of existence. Like it says in the Tanya, that literally Yaakov represents the soul of all of existence. That if you get to the innermost core of anything in the physical world, on a spiritual level, you're going to find a DNA code there that's called Yaakov. So too, within every single Jew, you have a nefesh elokit, you have a godly soul that's called Yaakov. What did it say by Yaakov in the Torah? That Jacob was settling always in tents. He was constantly learning Torah because that is a spiritual endeavor. It's an internal effort. However, what was Esav doing? Esav was hairy, which means he represents the external aspect of reality. And his whole entire interest was bound up in that he was constantly in the fields, hunting. He gave up his birthright for physicality. He gave up his spiritual birthright for soup, which is a paradigm for a person that he gives up that which is in potential for him spiritually so that he can achieve instant gratification physically, just like Esav. And where are the Rashayim? Where are those people who are disconnected from Hashem? Where are those Jews that they never even heard of Hashem? Where are they receiving their chiyut, their life force from, if not from the tzaddik? So they're receiving it from Esav, the Rav of the Klipa. They receive it from his ruach. Ruach hatuma, which is a ruach of impurity, which we know that Rabbi Nachman teaches that where does depression come from? It comes from the ruach of tuma. Where does anxiety come from? It comes from the ruach of tuma. So where are all of these mental health issues, which are so systemic within the world, and especially within Jewish society, especially within secular Jewish society? Why is it so intense? Addiction and trauma and all of these different things. Where is it coming from? It's coming from the ruach of tuma. It's coming from the ruach, which is not drawn from the tzaddik because they don't know to draw from the tzaddik, or even in the religious world that it's covered up so intensely. They're drawing from the ruach sarah, the bechina of the strong wind that we know that the Gemara says that a Jewish person does not make an error, does not do something that disconnects them from their source of life, only unless they have a ruach of shtut, a ruach or a life force, an energy of craziness, which possesses them at that moment. The Zohar goes on to say, in fact, that a person who really tries to do the best that they can in their life and is trying to become a tzaddik or a tzaddikah on their own, that when an avera presents itself an opportunity to do something which the Torah dictates is going to disconnect you from Hashem, that literally your godly soul has to elevate from you, has to lift up from your psyche, and you're only left with this ruach of tuma, this ruach of shtut. That's the only way you're going to be able to perform such a thing. Because like the Tanya says, like Kutimran says, a Jewish neshama is so far from doing things which are destructive to itself and for those around it. So why do we see that we ourselves in our personal life are constantly engaging in acts that we know are not positive for us, that are destructive for us and for those around us? And then obviously we see this in a communal level or in a societal level. So the reason is because there's a ruach shtut, there's a ruach sarah. And that Rabbi Nachman says that this is like the pasuk that says, "Ein Esav achi ish sa'ir." They said that Esav is my brother. He is a man that is hairy. But the word for hairy is the same exact word that is the root of Sarah, meaning this northern wind or this turbulent wind. Where is this turbulent wind connected to? Sa'ir. The fact that Esav is hairy. In Kabbalah, hair represents dinim. It represents constrictions. It represents a diminution of life force or of joy. That's what it means that he's hairy. He's full of constrictions that disconnect you from godliness. And the reason why it's described as a ruach sarah is because wind or a tornado is very powerful in its time. It's very strong. It's very takif in its moment. And just as fast as it rises, it falls. But at the same time, a person needs to know that when it's strong, it's very, very intense. Just like when a person feels a taiva, he feels a desire to do something, which he himself knows is not good for him, which he himself knows that even after he's done, he's not going to feel good. So what is that? That is the ruach of Esav, that it's so intense that a person doesn't feel that they're capable of overcoming it. And yet, as soon as it's done, it just leaves them just as fast as it came. But this is why the pasuk in Tehillim says, Kol tzarav yafiach behem, that they huff and they puff at them. Because the concept of the ruach of Esav is it's very intense. Yafiach daika, it blows literally because it's a ruach. Shemitgaber aleihem ayadeh bechunach piv, because it's strengthened on those people through the ruach piv, through the energy, the life force, the breath of the mouth of those people who try and actively disconnect you from the tzaddik yisod olam. Shehu gadol bishato, that they're great in their time. However, she'ein lo kiyum klav v'lasov kalev v'nevad. However, in the end, there's no existence to them at all. In the end, they're going to be wiped away. They're going to disappear. Just like we see that the nations of the world, those people who have made it their business, who have made it their priority to get rid of the Jewish people, whether it was the Germans in the Holocaust, whether it was the Italians in the communist Russia, or in Italy with Stalin, whether it was with the Spanish in the Inquisition, whether it was with the Babylonians or the Egyptians or the Assyrians or the Greeks or the Romans, just as fast as all of them came to the forefront, they have disappeared. Now, even though at the time that they came up, they swept over the whole world and they threatened to achieve world domination, just as quickly they all were wiped out. And this is the opposite of the Jewish people, that we do not come up in a hurry. We don't come up in a frenzy. We come up slowly, slowly, but we never get wiped out. We never go away completely, because that's real ruach. That's the ruach of the tzaddik. But the ruach of Esav is very intense. It's very strong, but it's temporary. It begins and it ends, just like our problems in our life. They become very intense. They're very strong. And if you don't have the patience or the faith to hold on, you can get blown away very quickly. You have to hold on. That in the end, that the word Sa'ara also comes from the word Sa'er, meaning that they are going to disappear. They're only temporary. Like the pasuk says in Devarim, Shalem l'sonav el panav lavido, that the reason why Hashem allows them to exist and to cause problems for us. And this is a well-known principle in the Torah. Why does Hashem allow people who are trying to do negative things against us collectively? Or let's say you personally have your own enemies, whether it is your own personal, individual, spiritual enemies or emotional, psychological enemies, or whether they're enemies of your family or the community or the Jewish people at large. What is the reason they give a time period to exist? Because Hashem allows those who do wrong to accumulate a certain amount of doing that wrong before they reach a threshold. And once they reach that threshold, Hashem gets rid of it, gets rid of the problem, wipes it out completely. And this is what we've seen historically over time as well. And it's the same thing by us. And this is the reason, by the way, that these nations, they have a period of time that they do negativity to us, that they really affect us in a negative way, because Hashem treats his creations with fairness. So too with us. Let's say, for instance, we move away from Hashem. What is it that allows us to continue on our path? And the reason is because Hashem ultimately wants that everybody should do teshuvah. Hashem ultimately wants that everybody should get close to him, to draw close to him. And therefore, Hashem doesn't want to get rid of anybody. He doesn't want to ruin anything which he created. He only wants it to flourish and to grow and to be successful. However, in the end, when a person continues to do wrong, he wants to get rid of that person in one shot, that they should see it in their Shalem. That's the reason why the Pasuk, Rabbi Nachman says, that when it could say that Hashem is going to do something to them, but the word that it uses, Shalem, which can mean to compensate, but it can also mean to make whole, meaning the Shon Shleim with a Chisaron, that he can make whole that which is lacking. Shenim Shachlo. That where are those people who they're not connected to truth? Where are they receiving their life force from? Their shleimut, they're receiving it from the Rav of Klippa. And our goal is that we need to receive it from the Rav of the Tzaddik. We need to receive it from the Rav Chesed. Dainu bechinat arichut haruach, meaning from the ruach which is extended. We need to receive it from El Panav, because the concept of panav, of his face, is the concept of ruach, kamoshe katuv, like it says, hakarat panehem antambam. Ze'achotam, this is the concept of the nose. Like Rabbi Nachman says elsewhere, that where does a person draw his life force from? Where does the Mashiach draw all of his life force from? How is the Mashiach going to overcome all of his battles in his life? And the reason that applies to all of us is because each of us has a spark of Mashiach inside of us. Each of us has a spark of Geula inside of us. So the way in which we're able to draw that spark of Mashiach is through tefillah. That's the concept of the nose. That's where we draw the life force from. And who's the one who causes us to pray with intensity? Who's the one who causes us to pray with self-sacrifice and to do that hour of Hibodedut? That's the tzaddik. That's the chotem. That's the nose. Shubchunit ruach. That's the concept of ruach. Just like Hashem gave Adam Arishon, the first man, he gave him breath of life, he gave him life force, he gave him joy, he gave him hashpah, he gave him a tremendous positive influence that filled him with life force. So too the tzaddik does the same thing for us. To anybody who wants to connect to him, he blows into his nose, nishmat chaim, life force, meaning he causes you to want to pray. He causes you to want to be able to draw close to Hashem and to be able to talk to him and to get up early in the morning and to do Hibodedut, to make a time, an hour a day that you speak to him and you pour forth everything forth to him. And that gives you Yeshuv Dat, that gives you clarity of mind, that gives you peace of mind. That also is your Ruach. That's your life force. Achul Avido. But for those people who are disconnected from truth, the only reason he's allowing them to receive life force is that it should build up to a certain threshold. And just like a thunderstorm or a tornado, that it should be very, very intense and build up, but ultimately it should fade away and disappear. It's only strong for a period of time. That in the end it's going to disappear. And this is the concept of erech apayim l'rashayim. Like it says in the Rishami, that Hashem has erech apayim, not just patience towards his children, not just patience towards those people who are trying to do good, but he even has patience to those who are doing the opposite. Ki ruach neshama hu bechinat erech hapayim. Because the concept of Hashem's patience is the concept of a breath which is extended over a period of time. And we know that the keter of Hashem, the crown of Hashem, like Rabbi Nachman teaches in the sixth Torah of Likutei Moharan, is connected to extended breath. It's connected to patience. So we see that at the highest level, Hashem deals with us with a tremendous degree of patience. Because even though in its time it's very, very strong, which is the concept of extended breath, in the end, there's not going to be anything there. And that's why we're called the Jewish people. Because it says that we're sorely afflicted by them. We're sorely afflicted by these people who are trying to get us not to learn Torah. We're trying to disconnect us from Hashem. We're trying to disconnect us from spirituality. Because because they now are under the dominion of Esav, just like we are in Chutz La'aretz. We are controlled by the governments of the nations of the world, and even within Israel, that here they're trying to pass laws that are making it that if you try and bring a Jew close to Hashem, I heard recently, I think yesterday, that they're trying to pass laws that make it illegal to do so, and that you're going to be put in jail if you try and help another Jew to achieve any closeness to Hashem or any spiritual education. Now, this is exactly what we're talking about. Where are they getting their ability to do that from? How do they even carry out such things which would be so detrimental to us, that we know that whenever the Jewish people do not learn Torah, that they're disconnected from Hashem, that causes us to be kicked out of the land of Israel, that causes us to be under the dominion of not just non-Jewish nations, but oppressive nations, ones that are aniya so'ara, ones that are oppress us and afflict us. So where do they get that ability to do so? They're drawing their life force from Esav, bechinat ruach zara, from that strong wind. However, to those who attach themselves to tzaddikim, even in the midst of all of those trials and tribulations, bekabel ruach chaim, they draw ruach chaim. They draw the energy of life force. They're not affected by those negative decrees because they are filled with emunah. They're filled with faith. They're filled with truth. They're filled with joy. They're filled with purpose in their life. They're filled with all their lackings. Me'atzadik va'arav de kedusha. They receive from the Rav and the Tzaddik of kedusha. Bezrat Hashem, tomorrow night, hopefully, I'm moving into my apartment. Bezrat Hashem today. So Bezrat Hashem, it should be successful. If you guys want to pray for me, I would appreciate it. I need it. Hopefully I'll be able to get to sleep early tonight, to get up early tomorrow, to do the next section, which is going to explain to us what is it about the tzaddik that causes that he's so beneficial to us. What is it about him specifically that allows him alone to be able to fill our lackings, that when we have connection to him, to be able to draw down tremendous life force and energy and faith and good. What is it about him that allows him to do that for us? So that's a very vital, important lesson, and goes to the heart of why Rabbi Nachman says we need to have hitkashrut with the tzaddik. We need to have attachment and connection to the tzaddik. With that being said, for anybody who's here, I just want to make a very important announcement. So please just listen for one more minute. Tzion has been a huge success that in this past year. If you go on YouTube alone, we have 210 subscribers now. We have thousands and thousands of people who have viewed our videos. We have hundreds of people who look at these classes on a weekly basis. People who literally receive their life force, their chiyut, their faith, their joy from these teachings. I'm sure anybody who's watching right now, who comes in on a 5 minutes notice, for sure these classes, I'm sure, have affected you in some positive way or in a very positive way. I give my heart and soul to you guys. You know that. And Tzion has been a dream come true. And we're just getting started. We really want to do so much. We want to help so many people. I want to be able to bring this to everywhere in Israel. I want to bring this internationally. I want to be able to travel to America a few times a year to teach Torah there across the country. We want to be able to get these teachings to those people who are struggling the most in psych wards, in jail cells, in prisons, in psychology centers, in therapist office. We want to write books. We want to really do a lot. And we just feel like we're scratching the surface. But we've run out of money. Thank God from the amount that we had in the beginning, we have made good use of it. Every penny was used, I believe, properly. And we've done so much with what we've started, but we don't have any more. So we have a fundraiser, which is very normal for non-for-profit organizations. This fundraiser for us is really critical because as opposed to other organizations that they have some type of residual income or funding that's coming in because they're established, we're not. We're very new, and therefore we have no more funding. So I'm not going to be able to continue to teach classes for Tzion. I'm not trying to make this dramatic. I'm just being honest with you. I'm not going to be able to continue to do this if we don't have a huge hatzlach, a huge success with this upcoming fundraiser. And for that success, we need all of the students of Tzion to really pull their weight and to do what they can to help us. What does that mean practically? The fundraiser, I believe, is on the 28th. It's on a Sunday at the end of this month. So it's about 4 weeks from now exactly. Until that point, we need that people will sign up to be volunteers to help us on the day of the fundraiser. That means to make calls to friends and family, to describe the impact of Tzion on your own life, on the life of your friends and family, and what you believe that this could do for people around the world. If you believe as much as I believe, and you're as passionate about this as I am, so this is going to make a huge impact in what Tzion is going to be able to do for the next year, and really, Bezrat Hashem, the future of Tzion for the coming years. And all we need you to do is to show up, to make a phone call, to say, hey, this is Tzion, this is what we're doing. And really, according to the person who's running our fundraiser, success is not dependent on us being very convincing or doing some sales ploy. It has nothing to do with any of that. It has to do with manpower. It simply has to do with enough people volunteering to help and us all coming together and doing the best that we can for 24 hours. So please, I beg you, if you hear this and you care about Tzion, you care about me, and you want that I should be able to continue to make this grow and to flourish, so please join in. The way that you do that, there is a link that was sent out to all the Tzion groups that the COO, Benjamin Weinberg, has been working very hard and very diligently on this campaign. And he put out a link for anybody who's able to volunteer. So if you could please put your name there, we need it by the 15th. If you hear this now, if you could just do it right now, that would be great. The more volunteers we have, the better it's going to be for us. And it's a huge zchut for you. You should know that the highest level of tzedakah is to give to the tzaddik and to give to the land of Israel. This is going to accomplish both. The amount of blessings and benefits from that level of tzedakah, it saves lives, it saves personal lives, and there's no end to the blessing that comes from that. So Bezrat Hashem, it should be a huge blessing for you and your family to contribute. For sure, it counts as a very high level of tzedakah, the highest, in my opinion. So does anybody have any questions from today's lesson or about the fundraiser? There's a question.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Hi, it's Jacob.
Hey, Jake, how's it going?
Good. So I actually just got off the phone with Ruben Bernstein about this. So
Okay.
my question to you is there a specific number that you have in mind in terms of like what you want your fundraising goal to be? Like,
Yes.
is it just like $500,000? Is it $5 million? Like, what are we shooting for?
I would love to have $5 million, and that would help us to no end. We'd probably be able to actually open up a building called Tzion in Eretz Yisrael in Yerushalayim. But for this fundraiser, our initial goal was $125,000. So far, we have raised in pledges and actual donations close to $50,000. So we have another 75 left. I know it might seem like a tall order, but you would be surprised how if we speak to the right people and Hashem helps us, how quickly we'll be able to raise that amount. If we make less than that, we'll make do with it. But we really need to raise as much as we possibly can. The more, the better. So $125,000 is the goal.
Okay, I'll be in touch with Benjamin and see how I can help. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Jacob. Really appreciate it. There's a question on the bottom here. Slicha, I'm Rabbi. I'm in Canada, but I pray that you will have many volunteers. I wish I could share these teachings with the patients I see at the hospital where I work ever since I first prayed back to be in Israel. So you can still help in Canada, you should know. I'm going to be doing it from Israel. My students are hopefully going to be doing it from New York and America. You can help from Canada. So please don't think that you can't help. Please volunteer. We will find a way that everyone who volunteers will be able to contribute and to help. So I would also appreciate that you pray very much. You know that I believe in that more than anybody. I would also ask that you do physical ishtadlut as well, and you help volunteer as well. What was the name of the neshama needing prayers? That was my grandmother. Her name is Sarah Esther, and her mother's name is Minnie. So Sarah Esther Bat Minnie, if you could please pray for her, I would really appreciate it. Thank you very much. There's a question here. Whenever you mention depression and anxiety, does bipolar fall under that category? For sure, bipolar falls under that category. All mental health illness falls under that category. Rabbi Nachman says clearly in the first Torah of Likutei Moharan that mental health illness comes from this Rav of the Klipa, comes from this force of negativity that we're dealing with here. So, and I could just tell you from my own personal life, the amount of things I've been diagnosed with, the amount of mental health help that I've gotten in the past, and how much progress that I've made in this area in the past 4 years, 5 years, since I've really taken these teachings to heart and live with them in a way that I'm giving over. There's no question that everything that Rabbi Nachman says is true. And the more connected I am to him, the more that I actualize his teachings in my life and get closer to Hashem and receive that Ruach Chaim, the healthier that I've gotten, the less psychological help or psychiatric help that I've needed. B'ezrat Hashem, it should just continue more and more, not just for myself, but for everybody who's close to Rabbi Nachman. Any final questions before we end up here? Okay. Everybody have an amazing, amazing day. If it's by you at nighttime, so have a great night's sleep. I hope you guys wake up early, talk to Hashem, tikkun chatzot. Have an amazing day. B'ezrat Hashem, we'll try and do another lesson tomorrow morning as well. So please pray that I have the ability to get up early to do another lesson in Likutei Moharan. And somebody wrote on the bottom, I hit enter and it sent the message sent before I meant to send it. I meant that I have wanted to make patients listen to your teaching since I first heard you with Gedalia Fenster. Oh, wow. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. From Canada. And by the way, I've heard a couple people are interested in Canada in these teachings. If you could please set something up so that after the fundraiser, I can get to Canada. I would love to go to Canada and to teach there. I know there's a big population of Jews there. I've had a lot of interest from the students here. So if you guys are interested in, please help us with the fundraiser. One of the big reasons that I want to fundraise is to be able to pay for these flights so I can travel across the world and to teach these teachings. I think it's really important and vital, and it's going to help us long term to build a worldwide network and community. I really hope eventually, it's going to be one big Tzion family across the world, that we feel that we're all so close, that we're best friends, that we're brothers, that we're sisters, that we really help each other to achieve everything that we're looking to in our lives and for the world. So thank you from Canada. I appreciate it. I was about to do like this. I don't know why. Everybody have an amazing, amazing day. Thank you, guys.